right. As you think, so shall you be. That is a quote from two famous people. I'm not sure who said it first, but I've heard both. So, if you're familiar with Wayne Dyer, who is like the really like the grandfather of our modern, I guess, programs on personal growth and stuff. I love listening to Wayne Dyer, even though he's no longer with us. His I found him about a year ago, and I love listening to his talks. He did a lot of talks on public television and other places, and he learned a lot. And also, Bruce Lee is another person who had said the same thing. So I'm going to say it again. As you think, so shall you be. And if you understand that, you want to be thinking what? Positive, right? We all want to be thinking positive. And I know that is so hard sometimes because our brains are actually wired to for the negative. Our brains are wired to make sure that if there's trouble or there's some impending danger, that we see it and we react to it. That is our defense mechanism that we have. It's our brain and our ability to have the think and all that stuff. So it's really important to stay positive. And we are talking today about the mind body connection. We talked about aging and the nutritional aspects, and we can slow down aging by eating foods that have a lot of fiber, legumes, and plant based foods, and limit our animal products and processed foods. Um, but we can't ignore the mind body connection. All right. So, if it's okay to tell a story, OJ, hey, how are you today?
Doing good, thank you. Yeah, I love to hear your stories.
All right. So I was really gung ho on the whole nutrition, and I still am because I believe that nutrition is the foundation for good health. Absolutely. It is and even we talked about it in the aging, it is the biggest single factor that can help improve your health and reduce your or I guess slow down the aging process, and you can actually reverse chronic disease. But one of the things I started looking into was, to me, eating a plant based diet and having a plant based lifestyle is pretty simple. It just means that you replace what your processed foods and your um, animal products with whole food, plant based foods. So it seems really simple, but yet it's not easy. So I started looking at why that is, and that turned me on to the whole mind and the mind body connection and all of those things. And so I wanted to pay homage to that this week because it really is important. So today we're talking about understanding what that mind body connection is. We'll talk a little bit about the beliefs, attitudes, and thoughts that influence our physical health. And we will explore some psychosomatic effects. All right. So let us start with I'm going to put my little presentation on. And here is our understanding our mind body connection. So here is how it works. Oh. All right. So we start with our thoughts. Our thoughts actually are the cognitive processes that occur in our mind. So this is what we are thinking. They could be conscious or subconscious, and it can include all of your beliefs, your interpretations, your judgments, your self-talk. How many of us have self-talk? We all do. Things like I'm not good enough, or this situation is hopeless, and we want to try to be positive. Then we're going to also we've talked before about the importance of our self-love, and so thinking I'm not good enough, we want to switch that around and have talk about it, and have some self love for ourselves. And we all, by the way, we all are good enough as we are. We are all beautiful people. So from our thoughts, we have our emotions. So our thoughts will trigger our and influence our emotions. So when we have certain thoughts, they can trigger emotional responses. So obviously, if you say, I'm not good enough, you're triggering a negative response about yourself. And so that can lead to feelings of sadness, anxiety, inadequacy. And then on the other hand, positive thoughts and positive self love and stuff can evoke emotions where you are happy, maybe content, confident. And then our behaviors from our emotions, it in turn influences our behaviors and how we are going to react. So, if we are anxious, then that might lead us to avoiding the situation, a certain situation, or seeking reassurance. If we are feeling happy, we might go out and socialize more, go out dancing because we're feeling happy. Do a happy dance. So what happens is our thoughts influence our emotions, and then that in turn influences our behaviors. So that kind of causes like a feedback loop, um, and so there's kind of like I said, a feedback loop. And so if we're in a situation where we want to avoid something because we're anxious, then that reinforces the belief that the situation is threatening, and it leads to more anxious thoughts and emotions, so we can continue and make it into a bit of a circle or a vicious loop. And the same thing can happen with positive thoughts and emotions as well. And this cycle, it's not linear. It doesn't, you don't go just around a circle. Everything is interconnected. Our thoughts, our emotions, and our behaviors are constantly interacting and influenced by each other. So this is where it's not necessarily an easy thing to untangle. And so one of the things in understanding this cycle is the cognitive behavior therapies is what this is where this comes from. So if you heard of CBT, I know there's lots of therapies out there, and I know that my company that I retired from actually had a online CBT program, so cognitive behavior therapy program. So this is where we kind of get into our mind body, and what can happen if we in this situation is that we get into the fact that our beliefs and our attitudes and our thoughts can influence our health, our physical health. And so, if we have stress, anxiety, and negative emotions, we may end up with more inflammation, maybe a weakened immune function, and we could have increased susceptibility to illnesses. So, these are actually They've studied that. So there was actually a case study on a patient. His name is Robert, and he was diagnosed with coronary artery disease. And he participated in a cardiac rehabilitation program that had cognitive behavioral interventions. And through the sessions that he was focusing on challenging the negative beliefs he had about his health, and he started adopting a more proactive mindset. And as a result of that, he experienced improvements in his cardiovascular markers and reported a better quality of life. So, in this case, turning himself around and getting into a more positive mind frame and mindset really helped him to improve his health. So there have been studies that have been done, and they have shown that individuals with optimistic outlooks tend to have lower rates of chronic disease. They tend to recover faster from illnesses, and they tend to have overall improved quality of life. So it really does work. It really is important. And so I'll just kind of tie it up. If you are feeling joy, gratitude, and optimism, you are likely going to be healing. It's going to boost your immunity and enhance your overall well-being. So these are really connected. There's case studies and research that have shown that. So it's very interesting how these things work. And I actually want to talk about a study. This is well, let me just talk about the psychosomatic effects. And then I have this really interesting study that I just love that I heard about and want to share with you. So, psychosomatic effects actually refer to influencing our psychology factors on physical symptoms and conditions. So, this basically is being able to influence our physical symptoms and health by our psychological factors really shows about the mind body connection that we have. And so, if you have chronic stress, anxiety, and unresolved trauma, it can contribute to worsening conditions such as high blood pressure, digestive disorders, chronic pain, and autoimmune disease. And so, addressing those underlying psychological factors through therapies can actually help. And I know that, we talk about, things that might be unresolved traumas that we went through when we were kids, maybe. And sometimes we don't even realize that those traumas are there still. And I know, like recently, I've been getting into a little bit about um, kind of channeling my inner child and going back to little Debbie when I was a child. And, there's lots of times I don't even remember anything or I don't even think of it. And so last year I was at a retreat and we did a breath work exercise that got us to go inwards. And I was really surprised about how my inner child came out and some of the feelings that were so repressed, I didn't even know that I had them. But what it did for me is it really kind of brought it to the surface so that I could deal with it and I could put it to rest. So these psychosomatic effects are really important, and you might not even realize that they're there because they can be repressed or suppressed and you don't even know it. So some of the ways that you can manage them, or some of the, I guess, the therapies that are out there. We've already talked about cognitive behavioral therapy. So that's one way to deal with it. So CBT, as it's known, is a therapeutic approach that helps us to identify and change negative thought patterns and behaviors that might be contributing to our psychological distress and our physical symptoms. And it has been shown to be effective for a range of conditions, including chronic pain, anxiety disorders, and depression. And I'm just going to also note I have to put in a thought for um, um, our nutrition, because you want to pair that with a healthy diet. And it has been shown that having a healthy plant-based, or I'll say plant-forward diet, really helps people who are feeling some of these things, especially anxiety and depression. Those are chronic diseases that can be helped with a whole food, plant forward diet. Then there is mindful based stress reduction. So, this is a structured program that teaches mindful meditation and stress reduction techniques. So, it can help you if you are trying to manage your stress, improve your mood, and then enhance your overall well being. So, this is again positive for your physical health. There is biofeedback therapy, which is a technique that uses electronic devices to measure and provide feedback on psychological processes such as the heart rate, muscle tension, and your skin temperature. So, through this biofeedback training, you can learn to control the processes, and then it has a beneficial effect on both your physical and your mental health. There is acceptance and commitment therapy that combines mindfulness strategies with techniques to help people accept and cope with difficult thoughts and emotions. There is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So that one focuses on treating trauma and PTSD, and it is something that is guided. Um, so it's guided eye movements and other forms of stimulation to process the traumatic memories. Now, there is another one that um, I have I don't have a lot of information, but one that seems to be popping up is psychedelic drug therapies. And so I know that these can be used for trauma, PTSD, and depression, and they can help bring up those areas that you're not even sure, like you don't even realize they're there. And I know one of my instructors is trained in the psychedelic drug therapy. And one of the things that she mentioned a story of a gentleman who was always angry, and he just didn't realize why. He couldn't figure out why he was so angry. And when they went deep down inside through the therapy, they found out that he had been burying a whole bunch of trauma that had happened when, because he had been a soldier in the army and went through a bunch of trauma, and had a number of his people that he had in his unit who passed away during whatever fight or war that they were involved in. And he was harboring all of this resentment and PTSD that he didn't even realize he had. And going through and releasing all of that was just a big weight off of his shoulders. So there is some credence to all of this stuff. It really is important to be in touch with kind of how you're feeling and some of these things. I know they can be repressed, and maybe you don't know that they're there. So it's a good thing to explore more than just the physical. It's really good to explore what's going on and what has gone on, in your mind, because it really is a big impact on your health. All right. OJ, any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. And my question is, how do you control hormonal mood swings? Sometimes we women, maybe when we're on our periods, we tend to be like moody, unhappy sometimes. How do we control that, so we can always stay excited and happy and motivated at all times? How can we control that?
That's a good question because, yes, those things do happen. And I think it's important to be in touch with your feelings and your moods, and also to realize that we do go through different moods and cycles, and women especially are actually on, I guess I'll call it the moon cycle. So we do have changes over that 28-day cycle. There are ups and downs, and some of those are normal. Um, I guess I would say the big number one is to really make sure that you are eating a good diet and you're following good nutrition, as we've been talking about. That would be the number one thing. But also, we will have ups and downs in our life. We're not going to be happy and, enjoy all of the time. And it's I think it's important to realize that we will have ups and downs, and that is part of this the cycle. So um, I don't know if that helped. We could look into it a little bit more for sure. I might see if we can put a little more research to it, and because it's a really good question and a really important question for sure. So let's see if we can maybe look at that a little bit more tomorrow. It's a good one. All right.
Okay, thank you. That
Does
helps.
that help?
Yeah, that helps.
All right.
Yeah.
So we will be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. So we talked a bit today about understanding the mind body connection, understanding how our beliefs, our attitudes, and our thoughts will influence our physical health, and also exploring some of those psychosomatic effects that happen, and really understanding how important it is to be aware of things that have happened in your past, and maybe there's some trauma that you don't even know that you had. I know I felt that. Like I said, I kind of talked about my story. Oh, and I will tomorrow, I'm going to give my story about the study that was very interesting, that just shows about how uh, um, it isn't just about the physical, it is about that mind body connection. And tomorrow we will talk more about mindfulness and stress reduction as well. So um, if you are interested in this, and also I just want to let you know that if you're interested also in the number one skill for success, I am participating in a webinar on Wednesday, this Wednesday, March the 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, where we are going to be talking about the power of concentration and focus, and how that can elevate your productivity. So if you are interested to sign up, send me a DM, or you can just mark it on your calendar that we are going to be live at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Wednesday, talking about elevating your productivity through focus and concentration. And for now, I'm going to say goodbye. We will see you tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.